Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
And remember this. Life is too short to be serious all the time. So if you can't laugh at yourself, just call me. I'll laugh at you. Here comes Kate Smith and God Bless America, followed by a Patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning. Thank you very much, Kate Smith, and good morning to you. Zeb at the Ranch, I'm Zeb Bell, and of course we're on the air thanks to our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And also we want to say thanks to some of our great advertisers like Western Way Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service, locally owned and operated. Kelly and the crew serving you at 734-6969. Well, without further commentary on my part, and this morning I want to just kind of give a kind of a preview. First hour, it's going to be very, very serious conversation this morning, and I really would like you folks to weigh in on what our topic is. And right now, here's Gina. Good morning. How are you?
Well, good morning, sunshine. I am fabulous on this Wednesday.
I know that I hear phones ringing. You probably have to answer that, but you always do such a wonderful job. I don't have to worry about anything. It's almost like having, and this is only out of total respect I say this, it's almost like having a robot over there because you are just so on time and on cue with everything. So, and that's not derogatory at all. Please don't take that.
I don't take it that way at all because you know me, I try to be a perfectionist and do things correctly. So thank you, actually. I take that as a compliment.
There's a lot of times that my mind has been folded together like a suitcase and latched, but you unlock it because I forgot something.
That's okay. That's what I'm here for.
Okay. Do we have a pledger?
Me, you, or Michael?
I like the me on your part. Go ahead.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well
done. Thank you very much. Time for the weather, and the weather's brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. All your home decor items, carpet and flooring, kitchen construction. And here's a little tip for you. When decorating for Valentine's Day, if you haven't already, instead of changing all your decor to reds and pinks, switch out the pillows or add a festive blanket to the back of a couch. You can use all kinds of color that's festive feeling to your home. There you go. A little tip there from Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door, and the number is 678-6945. Here is Michael Rogers' weather.
Good morning. Welcome to the Colorado River and Lake Mead. I'm sitting right next to Hoover Dam. You think you got water problems in the Magic Valley? Oh, you don't compare to what these folks got. And the bad news about it doesn't get any better now. You can look all that up on the internet because this is about the weather. But I just thought I'd share that with you. You got what is known as the Pineapple Express coming your way. And that's a weather term that weather guys use to kind of give it a name. And it's associated with warm, moist air coming in off the Pacific Ocean. Alaska usually gets it about 2 times a year, but you don't want that in the dead of winter, and then it freezes back up. So now it's your turn. Now, what this means is that you're going to get rain today. It'll taper off tonight, taper off tomorrow, and then you get the brunt of it starting on Friday night, Saturday. Saturday night is going to taper off on Sunday. So keep this in mind, because they won't tell you this on TV. If you got something weird that's happening with the weather, you're getting set up for something. So how did you get set up for this? Well, if you can remember, you've been in the 50s for about the last 3-4 days. You're getting set up for something. Well, now the something is here. It'll get started as early as Thursday. It'll taper off on Saturday night. And I'm going back to look at what water is left of the Colorado River at Lake Mead. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Thank you, Michael Rogers. Michael Rogers Weather brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley, 678-6945, the number to call, and look for the blue door. Thank you very much. Oh, we've got a lot to cover this morning, and I'm going to get into, as I said, some serious topics here this morning that absolutely need to be discussed. I don't care if you're in Burley, Idaho. I don't care if you're in Fayetteville, Arkansas, Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin, Jacksonville, Florida. We need to talk about these issues, so stand by. Also want to remind you about our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric, and they've got the best quality, underline that word, quality air filters for your furnace. Don't go messing around with those cheapies and just run down the basement, change it, run down the basement, change it, run down the basement, change it. Get the good ones, the quality air filters for your furnace at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley, open 7:30 to 5:30 Monday through Friday, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. By the way, real quick, I want to remind everybody that the Chili Championship of the World will be at Magic Valley Tires in Paul on Valentine's Day, Saturday, February 14th. They're going to be judging your chilies, and the winners are going to get top 3 prizes to the top 3 winners. And Max said yesterday that nobody could get a chili hot enough to make him go, whoa, and back up from it. Hey, let's test him. That's going to be coming up on Valentine's Day, Saturday, February 14th at Magic Valley Tire in Paul. Don't miss it. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then at 11, they start serving all the chili to the public free of charge. Caller, I'll be right there. Don't go away. Lovebird sale going on at Valleywide Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. Oh, lovey-dovey. Don't forget to get in there and register, my goodness, for the Valentine's romantic giveaway. Night stay at the Honeymoon Suite. Whoa. At the Best Western, plus 2 desserts from Perkins and a $50 gift card to the Upper Crust Grill. Oh, my! Sounds good to me. You better get in there and register today at Valleywide Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert, and check out all the great sale items for the Lovebird sale at Valleywide Home and Ranch in Rupert. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Zeb.
Hello, buddy.
I got on the computer and started reading about Obama's fast track. And the 2 things that hit me the most is the outsourcing of American jobs, number 1. Number 2, the importation of cheap immigrant labor, which is going to put a lot of people that are making decent wages, enough to buy a house and pay for a car. They're not going to be able to do that anymore. There's going to be more poverty in this country.
No, absolutely. And besides that, there's going to be a lot less freedoms with the freedoms afforded us in our Constitution.
Yeah, and the American people had better wake up. We're on the verge of being taken over.
Well, Tony, I'm just going to say this. You can say on the verge, but I would say it's already begun, like a growing cancer. I have nothing good to say about this Obama administration. And if Congress doesn't have any backbone or any spine left to stop and thwart Obama on this, absolutely crowning him as a king so that he has omnipotent powers over our trade regulations, we're in trouble.
Well, people need to get on the phones and start hammering on politicians to put the kibosh on this thing.
I agree. Totally. Tony, always good to hear from you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I'm going to do another commercial, and then I'm just going to say this. I'm going to stick to the subject matter for this hour. I'm not going to take any calls that are going to deviate from the subject matter. So, I mean, some people might be upset and say, well, I want to talk about this, I want to talk about that. No, I want to get everybody involved in this thing because I want to hear a unified voice on this, if possible, this morning. We're going to get right to it in just a minute. Don't forget Berry Equipment and Rental. They're going to be at Agra Action this weekend at the CSI Expo Center, and they've got a special deal. If you'll buy a great big, boy, these are good, Doosan loader. I mean, you talk about get the job done for you. They're going to throw in the deal, a Bobcat UTV. Great financing and lease options. This is Berry Equipment and Rental with old Eli, the old Packer backer, and Nick and everybody else. 3 locations, Addison Avenue West, Twin Falls, South Lincoln, Jerome, 159 West Highway 30 in Burley. They have the equipment to get the job done right. Berry Equipment and Rental, and they'll be at the CSI Expo Agra Action this weekend. I'm 67 years old. I've been all over the world, and I thank God for the opportunities. I've experienced so much from other cultures and absolutely enjoyed them, and I've absolutely enjoyed meeting all the other people. I have seen a lot of things in my lifetime. That's not bragging, that's a fact. And sometimes I think maybe in some instances, I've seen too much. But after yesterday, and this is going to be, and whether you like this or not, I couldn't care less. I'm just going to tell it like it is. After yesterday of getting off this program and going out into my living room and turning on the television set as my lovely bride prepared lunch, I was just completely in horror of what I saw. I watched the video and some of the still pictures of ISIS, these complete vermin, putting the Jordanian pilot in a cage and then going ahead with the sequences of pouring inflammable liquids on him and then starting a fire that quickly engulfed the cage and burned this man alive. I sat there, and not ashamed to admit it, had tears in my eyes. If you think you're so tough, you wouldn't be. I turned off the TV and I just sat there and I thought, mankind has come to this? Our civilization is completely off the rails. This is some of the worst barbarism that I have ever seen. And the inhumanity against man is just absolutely... There's not a word in our dictionary. There's not a word that we use that can describe how vile these vermin are that call themselves ISIS. The picture that got to me the most, it wasn't the burning of this human being. It was that still picture of a close-up of his eyes. And this is what absolutely pushed me back in my chair. The look in his eyes, the complete vacant stare, and the eyes that looked to the world and told the whole world that he, that pilot, had absolutely no hope left. That really, really got to me. Now, after watching this barbarism and the death of that poor man, and knowing how the story ended with the ISIS vermin literally covering up the cage, crushing the cage with him in it, with his burned body, covering it with a loader. I just can't imagine why there isn't a outcry in every nation in the world that has any source of civility that these vermin have to be eradicated. Not stopped. Eradicated. And with pure disgust, you may not agree with this, and then I'll start taking some calls. With pure disgust, I listened to what Obama said yesterday. He condemned the act and said we will redouble our vigilance. What does that mean? He condemned the act. Okay? Big deal. And he said we'll redouble our vigilance. What does that mean? Well, we're going to look harder. We're going to be more perceptive. We're going to be more recognizable of these atrocities. What does it mean? Redouble our vigilance. Did he say we're going to go after these vermin and crush them into the earth? No. Didn't say that at all. This is complete insanity. This cancer is growing all over the world. As I mentioned yesterday, Australia, Japan, Great Britain, here. And we have no leadership. We have no leadership. The United States used to be the quarterback of the world, and rightfully so. But we have no leadership. We have no one in the world that is standing up and saying, follow me, boys, we're going after them. We're like a ship in the ocean with absolutely no rudder, no steering. And when I watch the Jordanian people absolutely standing there dumbstruck, looking at monitors in the streets and hearing the news about this pilot that was burned to death, there was complete compassion for those people. And when they went, a lot of them out of control with just such hate-filled movements in the streets, and you can't blame them. You can't blame them. And what's the world doing right now? Sitting, watching, and waiting. Give me your calls. This is a subject that needs your conversation. Don't you think for 1 minute that you're immune from the problem. Don't you think for 1 minute that, oh, well, I live in southern Idaho. Not to worry. Yes, you do. You have a lot to worry about. There is no place on the globe sacred and peaceful away from this vermin that's trying to take over everything. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. It's a subject that we all need to be very cognizant about. We all need to have some sort of a plan, if you will, in our mind. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
Hey, this is out of control. They don't want to admit it. And the problem is, he won't admit it, but he's part of the problem. Our president. Okay? I really think in my mind that he is Muslim. He's not Christian. He's backing it, and he's got to be careful how he does it. But I really think that because of him that these things are doing what they're doing. You know,
Kiltman, I just absolutely look at him and I listen to the speech and I listen to the words. Listen to the words. He condemned the act. Okay, in your estimation, that's nothing more than frivolous words. And then he said, we will redouble our vigilance. What does that mean, Kiltman? What does that mean?
It's lip service to say that he's doing something, but really not doing anything. That's what it is. They're just giving us lip service because they don't want to do anything.
The insanity...
he's not going to back it unless we get somebody that has courage to step in there and do it, it's not going to happen.
I totally agree with that, and I'll stand up, and I am so sick of the mamby-pamby liberals, not only in this area, but also around the United States that go, oh, well, we've got to love more. Well, let me tell you something. While you're sitting there singing Kumbaya and having Hershey bars made into little chocolate bars or s'mores, the world is going to be aflame with more human beings thanks to this absolute cancerous ISIS group. We have got to eradicate them now.
Well, and the other thing is, people, guess what? There are 30 documented Muslim compounds in this country.
That's right.
30 of them. I mean, what do you want, people? What else do you need? These people are doing it their own way. The government's not doing a thing about it.
Well, let me throw one other thing at you, and then I've got to hurry up and double up on a commercial break. But a lot of people think, the refugee program, it's wonderful, like in Twin Falls at CSI and everything, bringing in most all of them are Muslim refugees. What about Christian refugees? What about the Christian refugees around the world that are suffering, and they're not being looked at first and foremost to come to this country, which is basically a Christian country? What happened to their wants and needs?
Well, let's throw one more thing out. We don't know about these Muslims that are coming into this country.
That's right.
We've already had them in our armed forces that have killed other people. We have already had them in our government that are turning a blind eye to what's going on. And we know they're there.
The blind's eye statement is very, very true. We need to be much more aware, much more cognizant, and we need to absolutely be diligent in finding out every single thing about their backgrounds. Kilt, man, God bless you, man. I just really have to pay some bills, and I got another caller waiting.
No,
thank you, sir. Caller that's waiting, please bear with me. Do not get mad. Don't go away. I'll be right with you, I promise. I got to get this done. Your call is next. Don't forget Denny's Restaurant. Absolutely, Denny's Restaurant, 611 Overland and Burley, and a new location right there in Twin Falls on 291 Pole Line Road. The food is phenomenal. Both locations, I've been there, and I'll tell you what, the service, all the people really care about your dining experience at Denny's Restaurant. It's the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch, and believe me, they do a wonderful job. Breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Denny's Restaurants in Burley and Twin Falls. Absolutely the best. Caller, I'm going to ask your patience. I'm going to take your call right after I do the Capital Press Ag Minute, brought to everybody by Pacific Steel and Recycling, 320 West Main in Burley, with superior customer service. They've got the drive-through recycling, the pickup service, roll-off containers. They really are an employee-owned company that cares for you. Pacific Steel and Recycling in Burley, and right now here's the Capital Press Ag Minute.
Today's Ag Minute brought to you by the Capital Press, the West Ag Weekly. The January 1st U.S. cattle inventory report surprised most industry analysts with a higher-than-expected overall number as well as elevated beef cow and heifer replacement numbers compared with pre-report estimates. The total beef and dairy cattle and calf count was 89.8 million, up 1.3 million head and more than 1% from January 1st, 2014. Cattle numbers showed a pretty significant uptick, considering they've been in decline the last several years, with the last increase seen in 2005, says Jessica Sampson, ag economist with Livestock Marketing Information Center. Beef cows, at 29.7 million, were up 608,000 head and 2% from year earlier levels. For the Capital Press Ag Minute, this is Brandon Tenner. For more agriculture news and information, turn to the West Ag Weekly, the Capital Press, and CapitalPress.com.
Hey, I'll tell you what, Pacific Steel and Recycling also carrying trailer parts and also a lot of new steel, the angle iron, flat iron, tubing, you name it. Pacific Steel and Recycling, 320 West Main in Burley, bringing you the Capital Press Ag Minute. Don't forget, on Mondays, we'll ask a question and you might win a half dozen cinnamon rolls. Oh, they're good. From Sophie's Chatterbox, 530 East Street in Rupert. Next Monday, we'll be giving away another half dozen. Don't forget, Sophie's Chatterbox in Rupert on the Square. Absolutely a great place to eat. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Hey, Hoss, this is the Chief.
Yes, go ahead, please.
How's it been going?
Go fast, Chief. I've got a lot of calls. Let's not go with the amenities. Tell me what you need, please.
Got these guys are pretty serious people. I was been reading up on some of it and watching some plus 18 videos of some of the stuff going on over there, and they have children that they're programming, that they go in, they've already taken over some small cities, and they bring in their mullahs and all this, and they've got these 8, 9, 10, 15-year-old kids packing around AK-47s, and they've got them programmed to hate the infidels. I mean, it's just an outrageous hate. And they've actually had some of these children killing prisoners for them.
Yeah.
And I heard last night that we're actually only using about 1 to 4.5% of what we have available to strike them. So we're essentially not really doing anything.
Yeah, now right there. After all you said, those are the key words. We essentially are not doing anything. There should be a combined effort today. There should be emergency meetings with the top leaders of every country, be it from Australia, Japan, Great Britain, I don't care where from. And there should be a strategy developed. There should be an absolute program developed to eradicate this problem now.
Well, they seem to not be concerned about civilian deaths or anybody getting their head cut off, or if you're a Christian over there, you're good as dead. So I don't know why we're hesitating to just not go in there and wipe them out. I mean, throw those leaflets out, tell them, women, children, get out of here, and then bring in the A-10 warthogs and just destroy them.
You know something, Chief? I agree with you, and I really appreciate your call because you brought up those verbiage. We're not really doing anything. Thank you. I got more calls, and I've got a commercial. Thank you for your call, as always. I do appreciate that. Thank you. He's right on what he said. Calls are welcome. You need to really express your opinion on this. You need to call Crapo's office, and you need to call Rish's office, Simpson's office, everybody, and demand that this country starts showing a little moxie, starts showing that it is the world leader, starts showing that we're not going to put up with this garbage. And don't think for one naive minute that it's not going to happen here. Scouts CarQuest Centers, and I want to say thank you so much to Jeff Poole and all the staff over there at Scouts CarQuest Centers. They've got 3 locations, 323 East 8th Street, Highway 25 in Rupert, 518 Overland in Burley, and their big truck center at exit 211 I-84. They know, and by the way, we've been telling you all about the Fleet Filter Survey. For some reason I have a hard time, I bit my tongue. Fleet Filter Survey. It's a great way to save time when something breaks down with your trucks this spring. You just call them and find out about the survey. You better believe it. I'll give you all the numbers, but you wouldn't remember them. Just look them up, the book under Scows. You'll find it. Give them a call about this Fleet Filter Survey. You need to do that right now. And they're teamed up with Baldwin Filters, the very, very best. Scows CarQuest Centers. And that's, of course, in Rupert, Burley, and I-84 exit 211. You give them a call today. Every detail matters. All right, give me a call. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Are we going to be duped into a sense of security by Obama? Are we going to be duped into a complete kind of an Alice in Wonderland atmosphere by Secretary of State John Kerry? And then are we going to be duped into thinking that a woman that absolutely has zero experience, as far as I'm concerned, in handling critical situations, I'm talking about Hillary Clinton, that we would be, as a populace, dumb enough, and yes, I'm going to say dumb enough, to put her in the Oval Office as the Commander-in-Chief of the United States of America? Oh, people, please, please. There needs to be a renovation in this country. There needs to be, and whether you like it or not, we have to consider going back to the John Wayne attitude of, hey, we're not going to take it from you. Back up and show respect to this country. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, that so-called leader we got, he isn't going to do anything. But what's wrong with their Congress? You know, them people are going to be over here.
Well, wait a minute. Wait a minute, Fred. In all honesty to the situation, they are already here. As the gentleman that called a little bit ago this morning said, and he's right, there are proven facts that there are over 30 barbarous training camps in this country that are run by Muslim terrorists. They're in New York, they're in Oregon, they're in Texas, they're all over this country. And we're sitting back like it's a Mickey Mouse Club.
Yeah, I know, but I was talking about ISIS.
It's one and the same, Fred. If somebody is making plans to blow you up or kill you, who cares about the preliminary name?
Yeah, I guess you're right there. But what's wrong with that Congress? Why in the hell can't we get something done?
You asked the question right there that most Americans, if they really care about what's going on in this country, they should be saying the same thing. I don't know, but I do know this. They absolutely have lost backbone. They've lost sight of what America is and should be. And one other thing, I don't think any of them have read the Constitution of the United States.
I don't either. No, I don't. I'm going to call mine today. I'm going to call them, all three of them.
And when you do, you tell them why aren't they calling and giving their constituents information about what's going on? Why aren't they calling this program? I'll give them the time. I'll blanket out anything else on my airwaves for them. But you know what? They're not doing their job.
I'll tell them just what you said.
Do it! I admire you for it. Thank you.
Well, I will, definitely.
All right, Fred. God bless, man. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. The man is right. I'm not going to be, and I mean this when I say this, I am not going to be the dog chasing a parked car. I have said this so many times, and boy, there's a lot of people out in the audience that really got mad at me. I mean, really mad at me. Because they look at some politicians as a sacred being. I'm talking about Mike Simpson. How long has it been since you heard Mike Simpson on this program? It's been almost 2 years. Now, there are those that jumped all over me when I criticized Mike Simpson. Oh, he's done all this. Oh, he's helped us with this. Oh, he's done all this for legislation to help this cause. That's probably true. But is he above criticism? Is he above being very naive about the Muslims, as he was, that caused the conflagration on my program between him and me? He's not above anything. He's a paid employee by you and I, the taxpayers. And if he can't call like he used to because he's scared to get his feet in this hot kitchen, that tells me that he hasn't got the guts to do a good job back in Washington either. He's not addressing you. He's not addressing the issues. He's avoiding it. I have said on this program, and I'll stand behind it, and Gina over at the station has heard it many times, I can pull up the programs and have the tape. He's welcome on this program. I am not going to keep chasing him and begging him to come on. Anytime, Mike. Anytime. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Minnecash Sales, don't forget, 1321 East Main in Burley with Zach and Joanne, the whole crew. These are wonderful, wonderful people that have Minnecash Sales right across from the Burley Airport. Wow, I don't know how they keep track of all their inventory. They've got all the windows, the doors, the garage doors. We just got a brand new door from them. They're just good people. And all the carpet and the vinyl and metal siding. And besides all that, they handle the Tartar Farmers and ranch equipment. Oh, my goodness, they're busy. You stop in and see them today. Minnecasia Sales, 1321 East Main in Burley, 878-2091. And they sponsor Dr. History on Tuesdays. All right, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. While I'm waiting for your call, don't forget Canyonside Irwin Realty. I'm very, very blessed to be a part of their office with the real estate business, serving all of the Magic Valley. Canyonside Irwin Realty. You can call the office number in Twin at 734-6500 or my number, 312-2976. Canyonside Irwin Realty. Thank you very, very much. I don't know what the answers are, but Deanne, my lovely wife, I couldn't do this program without her too. Her and Gina are irreplaceable. But I was reading a little bit of the excerpts of the story from the Navy SEAL that had taken down Osama bin Laden, Rob O'Neill. And his comment was, watching the video of this Jordanian pilot being burned alive was, quote, one of the most disturbing things I've ever seen. And that is straight from the lips of Rob O'Neill. You know, this atrocity, this brutal killing, it's got to stop. It's got to stop. The beheadings, the mass graves, the mass shootings of children, and then bulldozed into a huge hole. Really stop and think. What are we doing as a populace to demand that something be done right now by our administration and other leaders in the world to stop this cancer? Have you called? Have you called your senator or congressman? Why not? I've demanded that they get something done. I'm only one voice. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
And I'm the second voice.
Attaboy.
Just don't do a bit of good to call back, because all you get, sorry, the line is busy for 98 cents. You can recall later.
No, I tell you something, Al. I kept plugging away, and I punched buttons, and finally I got a live person on there, and I said, don't you dare hang up on me, and don't you dare refer me to another person. I want my voice heard, and I want it heard now.
Yeah,
and I got through to another office.
All this stuff coming on TV, I mean, people stop and think back. Germany, Auschwitz, ovens, Bataan, Death March, open graves, and Indonesia. All that stuff's been going on, and everybody keeps thinking, well, it won't happen here. Well, people, wake the hell up, because it is going to happen here, and how are you going to handle it?
Al, why is it that the younger generation doesn't even think that happened?
Well, because people on the liberal side don't want to let people know that it happened when you got documented proof of it happening.
Yeah.
I've had uncles that seen some of that stuff. I've lost uncles in the damn war. They've seen it. Mom had a whole bunch of that stuff that them boys sent home to her.
Wait a minute.
I've seen all that stuff on the damn television for years and years and years, and it keeps getting worse, and you got somebody sitting back there like Obama and them not doing nothing.
Yeah, but wait a minute. And you know this is a fact. We have, right here in the Magic Valley, people like my dear, dear friend and yours, Russell Smith, George Faulkner, and others, that were there. And I watched the tears stream down their face when they talked about it. How dare the younger generation basically call them liars?
Because the liberal side of this United States is not wanting the truth out, because they're part of it.
I agree.
I'm telling you, I'm getting sick and tired of these so-called do-gooders that keep bringing these liberals in, like the one from Minnesota. There's a good example of the way we're letting everything down. How come that man from Minnesota was allowed to take the oath of office with the Koran instead of the Bible?
Yeah, that you're talking about Representative Keith Ellison.
Right on.
Yeah. All right, Al. I appreciate you, man. Thanks.
Have a good one.
God bless.
Get the boats out.
I will.
Bye-bye.
Calls are welcome. Come on, folks. This is something that needs to be discussed. And like I said a minute ago, write a letter. Write a letter to Crapo. Tell him. Write a letter to Simpson. Tell him. Don't ask him. Tell him you want something done. You're paying the bills, not him. They represent you. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I don't know why it is that today, more so than ever before, I think the American public stands there in front of their representatives, their senators and their congressmen with their hats in their hands, and their heads are down. Oh, please, Mr. Politician, please help me. They worked for you. You tell them what you want. The weather forecast this hour is being brought to you by Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. Absolutely the great selection of new firearms, Browning, Beretta, Weatherby, Ruger, Benelli, Smith & Wesson, Winchester, all your ammunition. And now, more so than ever before, don't forget they've got the concealed weapons classes from LMS Defense and Legal Heat. Yes, at Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. Here now, the weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers for the Zip at the Ranch. It gives me great pleasure to announce to you that you're going to be walking into a weather pattern known as a Pineapple Express. What in the world is all of that? You've got a surge of moisture coming directly right off to the Pacific, and with the warmer temperatures in the lower elevation, your weather event will be more of rain than it will be of snow. Now, Pineapple Express is rarely known in these parts, but Alaska gets it about 2 or 3 times a year in the dead of winter. You're getting Alaska's weather right now because normally they get it this time of year. So that moisture surge again, so you're going to look for rain for today, and it's going to just taper off and be cloudy for tonight and also for tomorrow. And then about Friday, going into Friday night, Saturday, you're going to get the brunt of it. But it's going to be a rain event. And the temperatures are going to be in the 40s. Daytime highs today will be in the low 50s, but otherwise, say hello to something you have never seen before. It is known as a Pineapple Express. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Thank you, Michael. Brought to you by Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls, bringing you Michael Rogers weather. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know, in a way, and I hope everybody out there understands why I feel this way, but when we talk about something lighter, you know, we seem to have phone calls just ringing in one after another, you know, and then all of a sudden when we start talking about something that is extremely critical and crucial for people to be cognizant of, aware of, and stand up against, it seems like they don't want to talk about it, that they don't want to have their voice associated with the subject matter. Please, I urge you, that's what these programs are about, for you to speak out, let your opinions be heard, and I urge you during these programs to contact your representatives and senators and let them know enough is enough. Give me a call. Don't forget Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. Yes, excellent facilities. Yes, excellent people, headed up by Nick Greenwell, physical therapist, and his staff. Oh my, they know all about the exercising. They know all about the sports medicine. They know all about the hydrotherapy in that pool. It's the only pool of its kind in the area. Absolutely excellent. These are hometown people taking care of you, helping you get back to feeling like you. Okay? Call them today, 678-1191. Burley Physical Therapy and Rehabilitation, 1263 Bennett Avenue, Suite 2 in Burley. I'm surprised we haven't heard more. Also, another news story I wanted to get on this morning was that, and I was just so repulsed by this morning, of all times to show it on television at 4:30 in the morning while I'm having a bowl of Cheerios. I got to get Gina on this. Gina, turn your mic on for a minute. Are you there?
Yeah.
It's 4:30 in the morning. I'm sitting there taking notes about various news stories for my program. And at 4:31, up on the screen of my TV, while I'm having a bowl of Cheerios, pops the picture and story of Bruce Jenner as a woman.
Oh, good Lord. Did you lose your Cheerios?
More than you know. I was so sickened by this, watching an Olympic gold winner.
Yes.
That ran and won for our country.
Who was an icon and a hero for so many kids of our generation.
He was on the Wheaties boxes.
I know.
And he stood there looking at the camera with his long hair and his altered chest. And honest to goodness, there is no medication that you can take for that kind of a sickness.
Sean and I were talking about this last night, and Sean was kind of wondering, his reasonings behind this. And this is my theory. People can blow me out of the water if they want to. I seriously think the only reason that Jenner is doing this is for notoriety, to keep his name out there. Look who he has to keep up with. He's got to keep up with his stepdaughters, the Kardashians. So how does he keep himself relevant?
Well,
he does this. And honestly, that's my theory. I think the only reason why he's doing this is for publicity.
There have been, and I got to be in fairness to this story and in fairness to your last statement, there has been rumors for a long, long time about him as basically a little bit warped on the old board.
Okay.
And the thing that really got me about this story was at the very end, the commentator said, oh, and by the way, Bruce Jenner's mother thinks she is extremely proud of his finally coming out as a woman.
What?
Yeah.
You're kidding.
I do not kid about subject matter that absolutely is going to cause me to lose my lunch.
And I will hold true to my statement. The only reason I think he's truly doing this is look who he has to keep up with.
Your point, I'm not going to disregard that point. I mean, absolutely, these people are incensed with keeping their name in the front of the public. And Kim Kardashian, with that commercial she had on that ran during the Super Bowl, it was so repulsive with her big caboose. I absolutely... Well, you got to tell it like it is, lady.
Oh, it's true. She's got a lot of junk in the trunk.
Oh, my gosh. I mean, if she had an accident, the spare tire wouldn't even get damaged.
It's true, though. I mean, look at that. They're always trying to one-up each other. They always want to be on the cover of a magazine. They want to be top-of-mind awareness 24/7, 365. And honestly, I could care less. I better censor myself. I could care less about the Kardashians. And, I really did look up to Kris Jenner, and so did my brother.
Bruce Jenner.
Yeah. We really looked up to him as kids because he was an American icon.
He was the epitome of the American hero. He was on the Wheaties boxes.
Yes,
he was an American gold medalist. He was Mr. Athlete.
He was. And now he's Mrs. Athlete?
Now he's Mrs. Homemaker. Give him a mop.
Oh, why? I guess my ultimate question is why? Why is he doing this?
The perversion that's going on in this country, and the absolute perverted attitude. God does not make mistakes.
No.
And I don't care who's upset about this or who's offended. This is my feeling. It's my show and my opinion. God does not make mistakes, and this is absolute sickness. It's a sickness. But to have that story on and showing him there in basically drag with the long hair and the larger chest, I looked at my wife and I said, this is not going to be a good day. Good for him, I guess, if that's the way he wants to go about his business. But do you really have to do it on national television? Yeah, really.
The majority of us don't care.
Yeah, just if you want to be Mr. Weird, you go right ahead and be Mr. Weird, and just leave the rest of us alone, please.
Amen.
All right, thank you, Gina. And I got to pay some bills here real quick. I got another little story, though. I'll get back to you in just a minute. I got just enough time. Don't forget your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. It's Founders Day celebration going on at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers in honor of a great man and I was so pleased to meet him, and that is, of course, Mr. Les Schwab. And right now you can save an awful lot of money on your tire buys. They've got a tire right now, an all-season tread, economically priced at just starting at $39.99. Oh, my goodness! And also during the Founders Day, you can get $50 off custom wheels when you buy a new set of 4 at all 7 locations. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland in Burley. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Listen to this story real quick, Gina.
Okay.
An anti-gun group back east called, and this is serious, but it also has kind of a little twisted ending. An anti-gun group back east called the sister of a murdered girl, and they were going to ask her to be a part of their anti-gun group because her sister was murdered with the use of a gun. And so they got her set up on the telephone, on tape, and they asked her questions, and all of a sudden she said, I can't go along with you, because if my sister had a gun, she'd be alive today. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. And needless to say, it was the end of the conversation.
Oh, they hung up on her, or she hung up on them?
Oh, no, they said, thank you, I don't think we can use that. Goodbye.
Good for her for standing
Absolutely.
up for what she believes in. Good for her.
Absolutely. Anyway, we're going to take a little break, and we're going to get all ready for Doug Johnson next hour, and then also Joel Packham right here on Zeb at the Ranch. And don't you leave. We'll be back in 6. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hour number 2, Zeb at the Ranch. And, of course, we're brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, and the great folks at Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal.
Western Waste Services, locally owned and operated and serving all of Magic Valley. Please remember to give them a call to get on the route service to get rid of your garbage. Number to call, 734-6969. And, of course, they've got all the dumpsters in various sizes. You can get one to clean out the garage, the basement, whatever, and then they'll pick it up for you. Absolutely the best. Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Call today, 734-6969. Also, I want to say thank you, as I usually do at this time of the morning. I say thanks a lot for all their help, all their involvement in community activities, and that's, of course, we're talking about Hanson Mortuary at 710 6th Street in Rupert with our dear friend Joel Heward, his family, and his staff. And these words mean a lot to them, always treating you and your family with the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. They really care. Please write this number down, 436-5636. I'll say it again, 436-5636. And when there's the passing of a loved one, please remember they are there to help. Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. I really look forward to conversations with this man. We've never met face-to-face, never shaken hands, but I will say he has turned into a dear, dear friend, and that's, of course, Doug Johnson from Colorado. Good morning, Doug. How are you?
Well, good morning, Zeb. How are you?
Well, I'm going to be very, very serious this morning, And I want to talk about a subject that has nothing to do with your blog. I'm not going to talk about politics per se. I want to talk about something else that I think is more important than anything else this morning. And that, of course, is the barbarism and inhumanity that is being displayed right now to people that are innocent people that are absolutely just being murdered, slaughtered by ISIS, Muslim terrorism, and I just wonder, kind of like the old adage, how high is up? How far are we going to let this go?
Oh, we'll let it go all the way. We're going to let the Middle East fall to control of Iran and ISIS, and there's no doubt about that because Obama is determined to do that. I think the thing Americans need to wake up to, and we talked about it last week, is that this isn't about us saying, gee, the military needs to do this or so-and-so needs to do that. This is about understanding who we're up against. And when we have a president like we do, and those who control the Democrat Party, and even about a third of the Republican Party, these people are dangerous, and we need to work to get rid of them. But that said, let me make one statement real quick about what happened in this burning of the Jordanian pilot. This is such an offensive action on the part of ISIS that my personal belief is that, and many may disagree with me, and that's fine, but I believe that if we were to do what was right, we would load our bombers up with B-83 bombs, which the B-83, I believe, is the largest nuclear bomb we have in our stockpile, and we would drop them all over the area where ISIS is, literally level that area of the world, and then seed it with plutonium so nobody could go near it for 10,000 years and say to the world, you mess with us or you do something wrong again, this is who you're dealing with. That's the only message they understand, and that's the only message evil understands, and that's the only way we get our respect back in the world is to take a strong stand.
Doug, I'm sitting here roughly about 700 miles away, and I'm going kudos to you for having the backbone to say the same as what I said in the first hour. When I listened to the words that Obama said yesterday, when he condemned the act and said we will be redoubling our vigilance, these were nothing more than petty, worthless words that when you really think about it, condemning an action and redoubling your vigilance, what does that really mean?
Well, it means nothing, and he's the man of nothing. I mean, when we say he's an empty suit, he really is, in the sense of being sincere about anything for America. His only goal is to take down our country. That's his only goal, and he will put on any front, any airs he has to do that. Yet you turn and you ask, and I know you've got some in your audience, you ask any veteran, especially veterans of World War II, it seems like, because they really see this clearly, you ask them where this country is headed and where this world is headed, and they see a rise of actions like Adolf Hitler did in Nazi Germany all over again. They see that it's coming. They see it can happen here in America, but the vast majority of Americans don't understand that, and they don't listen. And we need to listen. We need to listen to people who know.
Doug, I sat there yesterday after I got off this program, and I guess I try to put up a fairly rugged and tough front. But when I watched, and I'm getting a little teary-eyed here now, quite frankly, but when I watched the soldier being put in that cage, and I looked at the look on his face, that vacant stare, and the eyes that basically were telling the world that there was absolutely no hope. He was going to die. He knew it. And I thought about how helpless the rest of the world was looking at this, and something has got to be done. There is absolutely an eradication that needs to be performed, whether it's your way or another way. We have no leadership. We don't have anybody stepping to the forefront and really saying, follow me, we are going to stop this vermin.
No, we're not the ones who will stop it. It's not going to be stopped by America, because even if we were to elect a good, strong conservative president in 2016, we're a long way from that, and a lot more damage will be done between now and then. Plus, then you have the need to rebuild our military, to re-strengthen our allied relationships. What ISIS did was clearly a strategic act. They looked at the situation and they realized that they can use this Jordanian pilot to try and put a wedge between Jordan and the U.S.'s alliance. Jordan's been a very strong ally among the Arab countries for America. And what they're hoping is that this intimidation will divide our allies and turn people against us and put people over them. Another good example is, and I'm sure you've seen this, in the last day or two, it's come out that the Syrian rebels that we are supporting and supposedly going to arm and train to go against ISIS, 5,000 of them now have turned and joined with ISIS. And so we can't even trust the Arab groups over there that are supposedly moderate. Which says to me, Zeb, one simple thing. Our only true ally in the Middle East is Israel. And the sooner we wake up and understand that, the sooner there is a chance to stop this. But if we don't wake up and understand that, we won't stop it.
You're 110% correct, Mr. Johnson. I am standing shoulder to shoulder with you, and people have got to be outraged. People, I don't care if they live in Tucumcari, New Mexico, they got to stand up and they got to really say enough is enough. And you know something else that really bothered me yesterday? I was listening to a program, and I can't recall what network it was on. I was trying to do my paperwork and listen at the same time. The recruitment factor now, they claim, is going up because of these atrocities, and many of the recruits that they're getting are from the United States of America.
Yeah, Western countries, the U.S. included, are sending a lot of people. Now, the other side, and this is a small number, information is leaking out that many of these recruits, when they get there, are disenchanted because life isn't what they expected. But if they leave, they're killed, so they don't dare leave. It's not, whatever picture has been painted to them is not reality. And this comes back to, and you know, I know we harp on this a lot, but it's true. It comes back to our school systems and our parents of children in this country not raising their children with strong patriotism, strong understanding of who America is and what our government is and what our history is, so that they aren't swayed by this. If you raise your child right and you teach them the truth, they will not be susceptible to this. But there's a lot of people who aren't, and our schools undermine what parents try to do. And so this problem goes very, very deep, and sadly we are seeing the fruit of what has been sown in our country for generations now.
You know, Doug, you're a Christian, I'm a Christian. We both privately on some calls that we make from your house to mine, vice versa, we talk about the Bible, we talk about religion. But you know, honestly, after watching this inhumanity and this barbarian attitude that they showed when they killed that poor pilot, is mankind gone completely off the rails? I mean, is there any civilization left?
I wish that was a rhetorical question, Zeb, because sadly I don't believe there is. I think we have gone off the rails. I think we're over the edge. And when I say we, I don't just mean America, I mean the world. You know, we've said many times in the show, we talked about it, I've raised the point that the Bible teaches that when we near the end of time, that man will see right as wrong and wrong as right, and that's exactly what we see in our society. It's exactly what we see throughout the world. The focus on things is so off course of what it should be. This story we're talking about in the Middle East should be the top front page story, and yet we see the media and the left talking about things like vaccinations and other stupid things. We see politicians running for office, and I'm not trying to switch politics here, I'm just going to make the comment, running for office, they're even starting to jockey now for the 2016 nomination for the presidency, and they talk about everything else, but there's a few who talk, and I talk about this in my blog this week, talk about this, but this is important, about the importance of us turning back to God, repenting of our evil and immoral ways, and becoming a God-fearing nation again. And unless we do, there is no hope for this country, and frankly, no hope for the world. And I have come to the conclusion that I don't care how good a candidate is, or for any office, if they don't understand it, if they do not understand the importance of God in America and in our lives, then they are not worthy of my vote, because we must have leadership like this or we're not going to save this country.
You know, everything you said, I just can't add to except saying ditto. I mean, I totally agree with you. That book called the Bible is absolutely being destroyed. It's being ripped apart by shreds. It's being scoffed at. And yet, when you look at that book and read that book, it's all in there as to what's happening with man's inhumanity against man and why. And yet we're too stupid to stop the train from going down the tracks.
Well, absolutely. And, you know, we have to understand that when you abandon God, the only place you can turn for guidance is government. There is nothing else. This is why leftists, non-religious people tend to embrace big government, because they need somebody to tell them what's right and wrong. And the problem is, if it's government that tells you what's right and wrong, that means some human is deciding what's right and wrong. Those of us who believe in God, those of us who embrace the Christian faith, understand that God is the maker of all things. He is the one who writes the laws, and He determines what's right and wrong. And He said, man's heart is deceitfully wicked above all things. In fact, our hearts are so wicked, even we can't know what our own heart feels.
That's right.
Only God can know it. Well, if He is that pure, and He certainly is, then He is the only one we can turn to know what's right and wrong and trust. And until we wake up to that fact, we're in for a very, very dangerous and scary future. And you're right, you and I have talked about it both on and off the air. And sadly, I don't see things getting better. This country keeps going down a path. We have a president who keeps violating his oath of office. He keeps doing, I mean, just the other day it came out that he has been running now since 2009 a secret, hidden immigration system that's let an additional 5.5 million people in this country without anybody knowing about it. And where's the outrage?
Yeah.
Why is nobody standing up?
You know,
and you and I can go on with a list that's a mile long of all the different things, but this is the problem. Nobody's standing up, and that's where we really have a problem.
You know, we sit here and we talk about solutions. I want to go back to something we talked about just a few moments ago, and that's leadership. My biggest fear, and again, Doug, I'm open for scrutiny and your criticism on my thoughts, but my biggest fear right now is that there's going to be nothing done. There's going to be nothing said. There's going to be no action. And this atrocity of burning this human being alive will go unscathed as far as going after the vermin that did it. What happened after the beheadings of James Foley? What happened after the beheadings recently of Goto from Japan? Nothing. Nothing. And so the blasé attitude of, well, let's wait 3 news days and maybe something else will happen to take the public's attention away, that is what's happening right now in the world, and that's why these cancerous vermin are winning.
Well, you're absolutely right, and I'm afraid nothing will happen. And to add to your list in a little different sense, you know, we mentioned the Japanese reporters, the British reporters, even American reporters, this Jordanian pilot, and nothing happens. But let's go a step further. Let's back up a couple years to Benghazi, when the terrorists killed our ambassador, who is certainly one of the leftists. And they still did nothing even about that to go after people for hurting one of their own. They don't care about human life. They don't care about you and I. Their belief system is such, it's very Trotskyite, or Trotsky-esque, I guess I should say, who justified the killing of 20 million people in Russia as social hygiene, a way to get rid of the unwanted people in society. Hitler did the same thing. Stalin killed 50 million people using the same thing. So with this kind of a morality, I'm being blunt here, Zeb, but with that kind of morality, we can't expect them to stand up. It's up to us to stand up and throw them out. And I'll say something I have never said on the air on any show to date, and I never thought I would, but I'm going to say it this morning on your show, because I've said it privately amongst people close to me a few times. I am amazed that Americans aren't at the gates of the White House with torches and pitchforks. I am amazed. 100 years ago, Americans wouldn't have put up with this.
I agree.
The way they are, and it just absolutely floors me that they do.
I agree. I said yesterday that the American public, we have got to stand up, shake our fist, and let these leaders know they were elected by us. They're paid by us, and if they're not going to do the job, we, the us, will throw them out. It has to happen. You know, one of the comments that I read this morning was very disturbing, and it was from Rob O'Neill. And if you'll remember that name, Doug, that was the former member of the Navy SEAL team responsible for the death of Osama bin Laden. This young man has been there. This young man has seen atrocities, and his comment, it really shook me this morning because of how bothered this atrocity bothered him. He said, I'm actually talking to some other SEALs right now, and in the past 13 and a half years of combat, this is one of the most disturbing things I have ever seen. And that's from a man that was on the raid to get Osama bin Laden. And I just can't imagine why our president would say something so loony as we need to redouble our vigilance.
Well, I guess I look at it like, I'm going to back up a couple days or a few weeks or whenever it was. The wife of the pastor who's being held in Iran, who I know is from Idaho.
Abedini, Pastor Abedini.
Better than I do.
Yep.
But recently she met with Obama, and he assured her he would do everything he could to try and get her husband released. And then her son asked the president, could you bring him home by my birthday?
Yeah.
And the president said, when is your father's birthday? And the young boy said it was sometime in mid-March, and the president just gave him some pat answer of, we'll do everything we can.
Yeah.
The fact is, we know they don't care. This man, unfortunately, is a political pawn and being used while the Iranians are treating him terribly and watching him die slowly over there. But these issues, our president, our administration, the people who control our government, they do not care about. They don't care about the individual citizen. If they cared about the individual citizen, when Sergeant Tamarisi was taken into a prison down in Mexico, they would have been all over the Mexican government and said, you release him right now, or
I
you're
agree.
going to get a response from us.
Yep.
But they don't do that. And I guess, and you and I know think the same way on this, Ed, but I guess if America were strong, I think what would happen is countries wouldn't dare do this. Because, look what happened in Iran. The moment Ronald Reagan was elected, they were holding 52 hostages of ours. I think it was 52. But anyway, they've been held for a year. And the minute before he was even inaugurated, they released him. Why? Because they knew this was a man that would do something. They knew Jimmy Carter wouldn't, but they knew Ronald Reagan would, so they immediately released the hostages. This is the kind of strength we need in America, and this is why it's so critical. But sadly, too many Americans are too afraid of upsetting their own life.
Yep.
I've seen it in my personal life time and time again. I've seen it in business. I've had situations cost me dearly in business for taking a stand for people. And just one quick example, years ago there was a woman whose life I literally saved that worked for me. And she seemed very indebted. And a couple years later something happened, and I went to war with the board of directors of the company. And she was a witness to what had happened. And she backed down because she was afraid she'd lose her job.
Yeah.
And I ended up, taking the brunt of the reaction that was false. My point being that people don't stick their neck out very often. And that's sad, because I was raised to stick my neck out, and I bet you were too.
Absolutely. In what you said just a few minutes ago, when all of this mess in Mexico took place with Sergeant Tamarisi, I can go on record and I can pull the tapes out of the archives, thanks to my dear friend John Ellis, that we had basically said if this president and his administration had any moxie, they would have called the president of Mexico and they would have said, as I look at my watch, it is 2:45 in the afternoon. At exactly 3 o'clock, Sergeant Tamarisi better be walking across the United States border, or all hell is going to break loose in your department. And that's the kind of leadership we need in this country, not to be bitten on the heels by these little junkyard dogs that are trying to tear us down.
Absolutely, but sadly our president wants us torn down. He wants America taken down a few notches. He does not. He believes we're an evil nation, and he's trying to fix that by taking us down and making us like other nations. That's why, a little different area of what he stands for when he talks about social justice, equality of income, and all this garbage. He wants to be equally poor, not equally have equal opportunity in this country, and so that means taking down everything we know and trust and love. This man, and I've said it so many times, it's not just him though. He represents an ideology that controls the Democrat Party and about a third of the Republican Party, and this is really important. We need to rid this country of this ideology.
I agree. Doug, I apologize. The clock went faster, it seems like, this morning. I'm out of time, and I say this and mean it. God's blessings to you and your wife, and I'll look forward to next Wednesday. You're a valuable part of our program. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Zeb. You have a great week, and I will talk to you next week.
Thank you very much. Doug Johnson, notable author and political pundit, and also great blog, the Horse Sense blog. I appreciate him. Thank you very, very much. Let's ride. Highway 24 between Rupert and Hayburn, or Rupert and Burley, whatever you want to say, it's in between. And it's where the fun is sold. Plain and simple. You want to get outside? You want to enjoy life? You want to have fun? Okay, they sell fun. They've got all the Skidoo snowmobiles. Yep, they sell fun. They've got all the accessories to go on the Skidoo snowmobiles. Yep, they sell fun. They've got all the ATVs and all the accessories. There I go again. Yep, they sell fun. And they've got one of the best service departments anywhere, anytime. They can fix any problem and get you right back outside. There you go, plain and simple. Let's ride. Highway 24 between Rupert and Hayburn, or Rupert and Burley, where the fun is sold. There you go. Also, real quick, it's Valentine's Day around the corner. I got to go get my lovey something really special, and she's got a birthday coming up, too, as a matter of fact. Well, don't forget Whipple's Book Plaza at 222 West 11th Street in Burley, the perfect gifts for your Valentine. Yep. And they've got 3 floors of books and precious moments and greeting cards and crafts and art supplies, children's books. Oh, I mean, the list goes on and on. The Book Plaza has it all. All right there at 222 West 11th Street in Burley. You stop in at Whipple's Book Plaza today. And also wishing you a very happy Valentine's Day, Perkins Restaurant. Oh, have they got a bakery over there that's fantabulous. And they got a lot of special Valentine's Day features on their menu, too. They call them the Coast to Coast Classics, like the Big Baja Benedict and the Rocky Mountain Scramble and the San Francisco Shrimp Stir Fry and the Philly Steak Melt. Yeah, Coast to Coast Classics for Valentine's Day. And check out all the bakery items. Wow. Perkins Restaurant. You stop over 800 North Overland in Burley. Wishing you and yours a very happy Valentine's Day. Okay? We're going to have our guest with us in just a moment. Stand by to that guest. It's going to be Joel Packham with the University of Idaho Extension Service. And first and foremost, though, I want to tell everybody, if you're having trouble hearing, I mean, you sit there in a conversation and go, what did he say, Ralph? And then you go to church and you go, I couldn't hear it, Martha. What did he say? Well, maybe you better have your hearing checked at Mount Harrison Audiology with Christine Pickup, Doctor of Audiology, at 1218 9th Street, Unit 2, right behind the Minidoka Hospital, across from the emergency room. Write this number down, 312-0957, 312-0957. Did you hear that? Okay, better get a hold of Christine Pickup at Mount Harrison Audiology. Good morning, Joel Packham. How are you?
Good. How are you, Sam?
Not too bad. What in the world is going on at the University Office of Extension, or however you say that title?
Well, we're just trying to survive the new year and get everything ready to go. And, of course, 4-H is getting going hot and heavy. And so our weigh-ins are coming up soon, and we've got all kinds of schools going on. That's the thing that's really happening at this time.
You know, Joel, when you were a teenager and then going into college, did you have any idea that you wanted to do this job as a University of Idaho Extension specialist, or did this all of a sudden just spring up in front of you and you grasped the opportunity? How did you get started doing this?
Well, after I got my bachelor's degree and got into and was working, just working a job, and I decided that I wanted to do a little bit more, and I had definitely thought of extension, and I really like working with people, and I like teaching, and yet I didn't want to teach in the public school system, and so I chose extension because I thought it would be a great place, and I thought maybe that I could make some kind of a difference in some people's lives as we went along. So I guess that was my justification and reason for getting into it.
Well, now, you've got so many things going, and your job really doesn't slow down in the winter months, does it?
Not at all. In fact, we're probably busier now than we are. I am. I can't speak for the rest of the people, but for me, this is my busy time because this is the time we have classes and try to help teach the things that we are supposed to be teaching.
All right. Now, these schools, basically give us kind of a short story on how these schools, what's going on, how people need to register, and something about the schools. What is there, something for everybody in agriculture? Explain what's going on.
Well, I think there is hopefully something for most everybody. We try to make sure that people have some understanding of lots of different things, and so we just finished yesterday our University of Idaho cereal school, and that's a fairly large school. We had 90-some-odd people there yesterday, and we talked about raising barley and wheat mostly, and really had a good program, and people can get pesticide applicator credits for that, as well as continuing education credits for consultants, and so we just finished that, and today I'm attending a direct feed conference for the Mini-Cassia Soil and Water Conservation District and Cover Crop Conference. So that's really been interesting, and I'm looking forward to get back to that as soon as I can get done with this. And we do have I had scheduled an estate planning class, but I haven't got enough people signed up for that, and so we're probably going to cancel that class. It's unfortunate. But I think people here in the valley, they get about schooled out. There's schools going on every day in the valley if you want to go to one.
Well, no.
So anyway, we'll attack it in some other direction.
You know, these estate planning workshops that you had planned, I read that, and to be honest with you, if I could have broken away from my schedule, I would have liked to have attended it myself, because there's a lot, I think, people kind of go, oh, yeah, I knew all about that. Oh, yeah, we're covered. But then they go to these schools, these seminars, and they sit back in the chair and they go, woo, I'm glad I attended because I found out things I didn't know.
Well, and the trouble, I think one of the struggles of our school, it's a 4-day thing, and we do it 1 day a week for 4 weeks, and it's just long. And I'm doing a class, an estate planning class with Zions Bank in coordination with Zions Bank, coming up in Twin Falls, and that's I think that's going to be coming up next week on the 18th in Twin Falls. And so there are almost every meeting that we do has some kind of thing to do with estate planning. I know at the Idaho 4-H conference, which is coming at the end of the month, I'm teaching a 2-hour block there, a 3-hour block actually, on estate planning in the Idaho 4-H conference. So we're going to get it covered. It just isn't going to get covered in the same way that it might have been had we have had a class. But again, it's quite a time commitment for people, and I think it's harder to get people to do that.
Now, what else, this morning I had called you last week, and I said, hey, Joel, how about coming on our program and talking about anything and everything that you need to get publicized for the general public? What else do you want folks to be aware of and cognizant as we go into the month of February?
Well, I want people to realize that there are lots of things going on, and again, we do have a pesticide license seminar coming up in the middle of the month on the 17th, 18th, and 19th. That if people want to get a license for pesticide applicator's license for the very first time, this is a school that will allow them to go to that, and then they can gain the information that they need and take the test at the same time, so that they can, the chances of success there are very, very high. And I would encourage people to look at that kind of a program if they're interested in getting a license. We do have, again, the Idaho 4-H conference is coming up at the end of the month, and that's a fairly large program. One thing that I have got coming up in March, in early March, is we're going to do an Excel training for those who just want to learn Excel. And it's not necessarily for people who have a huge understanding of Excel. This is more for the beginner, and I think we've found that to be very successful. That's the 10th and the 12th and the 17th and 19th of March, and they can come, and we're going to do it in the evening so people can still go to work and come to that class. And it's a lot of fun. I think people don't really realize how strong and how powerful Excel can be, and so that really is a fun course and something where people can get a lot of information.
Let me back up for a minute, Joel, and just mention, with all the increased regulations and the EPA involvement and everything, it's getting so doggone hard to meet all the requirements and regulations to farm and be in agriculture. It must be really tough to get all these pesticide licenses and everything for application on the farm, is it not?
Well, I think once you get the original license, it really isn't hard. You have to attend so many classes. You have to get so many credits within a 2-year period. And once you get that original license, it isn't really that hard to keep up. And I think it is important for people, not only for the regulations, but for their education, for their stewardship as they use those chemicals out on the land. They need to know exactly what's happening with those and how they can control that and how they can make that as effective as possible. So I think the training is really valuable. And again, I don't think it's all that bad. Once they get the original license, they can just go to classes without having to take a test again, which is very helpful. And I think they should attend classes, kind of like continuing education as they go forward. So, again, once the original license is received, it's really not that bad.
And then I was looking at the newsletter, and the day I got the newsletter, there was a big story in the paper, in the Wall Street Journal, and then also in the USA Today in regards to the government wanting to get more involved in food and food safety. And I noticed that Grace Whitman with your staff is going to have a Master Food Safety Advisor workshop. Isn't it getting a little bit tedious always having Big Brother government look over your shoulder?
Well, I think that does get tedious. I know her classes are extremely effective to help people understand how to take food and preserve foods for the very best that they possibly can. And I think that's important for this area. I think people, for the most part here in this part of the world, are interested in preserving food. We know that we raise a lot of food during the summertime. What can we do to preserve that and keep it so we can use it later in the year? That's the kind of class that this is, and it is extremely effective in helping people not only for canned foods, for freezing foods, for drying foods, for all the different ways that you can preserve food. That's what it's for. And it's an excellent class, and people can really gain a lot from that if they're interested.
Okay. One last thought here before I let you go back to that meeting. You mentioned it when you started the conversation this morning, 4-H. Now, here we are, first part of February, 4-H. Is it growing? Is it at a status quo? Is it lessening in involvement and interest? What's going on with 4-H here in southern Idaho?
Well, I truly don't think it's lessening. I think we're seeing it's pretty much more or less a status quo. We are pushing it into many different areas. We're entering schools and helping schools have certain projects that we can do inside the schools, such as a heritage project learning about Idaho history, as well as other things. We have science projects that work with robotics that we get into the schools and help school programs like that. So we're seeing a huge, I think, increase in numbers because of the different ways that we're doing it. It's not just family project type thing where we've had, leaders with a 4-H club. It's much more than that. It certainly includes that, but it's also much more than that now. Okay.
And now I'll kind of give the ball over to you on your side of the court. Is there anything you want to mention before we let you go this morning?
Well, I would like to kind of plug our Excel class coming up in March. They can just call the office. We do have computers with Excel on it. We're going to use the 2010 version of Excel. I'm sure there's probably a version after that, but that's the version we're going to try to teach. And it's an effective thing. If you use Excel a lot, we can give you some pointers that will really help make that streamlined. We'd like to, if you have an interest in any kind of a class, let us know, and we'd be glad to try to put that kind of a class together. If we certainly see an interest for it, we'd be glad to try to make it work. And we try to be as versatile as we can to help people learn the things that they need to learn, and whatever that might be. So we encourage people to let us know if there's something they want taught.
All right. University of Idaho Agricultural Extension Educator Joel Packham. Thank you, Joel. I know I got you out of a meeting. Go back in and enjoy. Thank you for your time this morning.
Thanks, Deb. I really appreciate it. Bye-bye.
All right, sir. Thank you much. Joel Packham with the University of Idaho Extension Service, and we really appreciate his efforts. Okay, where am I right now? Oh, I got to tell you a little bit about Cameron and Siemens Insurance. Yes, Highway 24 in Rupert. Dean and Todd. Dean Cameron, Todd Siemens. Very, very dedicated and responsive to your needs. Yep. Accessible and devoted to serving you and handling all the life insurance, health insurance, retirement planning, employee benefits. They are the professionals. Get a hold of them today. The telephone number to call, 436-4424. 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance. You call them right now. We're going to have a weather forecast, and then I'm going to invite you to give me a call. I want to kind of take a little opinion poll in the remaining time of this morning. There is such a big push right now, Colorado and, of course, Washington, legalize pot, legalize marijuana. And a lot of people thought, hey, man, that's cool. It's not. They are seeing so many problems in their respective states with attendance at work problems, poor work habits, late for work, quality of work has gone down, injuries have gone up, and healthcare costs are starting to skyrocket. As a matter of fact, 78% more absenteeism from work in those states due to legalization of marijuana. I want you to call me and tell me, there's even been people talking about our state legalizing marijuana. What are your thoughts? Give me a call on that in just a moment, and we'll take a yes or a no on that. Time for the weather. And Michael Rogers Weather is brought to you this hour by our friends at Urgent Care of Jerome. They're located at 133 West Avenue A, Suite B in Jerome. Number 324-2004. 324-2004. These are wonderful, wonderful people serving you. And I strongly urge, if you need some assistance, whether it's a sprain, a strain, a fracture, any injury due to accidents, whatever, they treat everyday injuries and illnesses. So please remember the name, Urgent Care of Jerome, number 324-2004. Right now, here's Michael Rogers Weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers for the Zip at the Ranch. It gives me great pleasure to announce to you that you're going to be walking into a weather pattern known as a Pineapple Express. What in the world is all of that? You've got a surge of moisture coming directly right off to the Pacific. And with the warmer temperatures in the lower elevation, your weather event will be more of rain than it will be of snow. Now, Pineapple Express is rarely known in these parts, but Alaska gets it about 2 or 3 times a year in the dead of winter. You're getting Alaska's weather right now because normally they get it this time of year. So that moisture surge again, so you're going to look for rain for today, and it's going to just taper off and be cloudy for tonight and also for tomorrow. And then about Friday, going into Friday night, Saturday, you're going to get the brunt of it. But it's going to be a rain event, and the temperatures are going to be in the 40s. Daytime highs today will be in the low 50s, but otherwise, say hello to something you have never seen before. It is known as a Pineapple Express. Enjoy the weather. It's the only way you got.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. Brought to everybody this hour by Urgent Care of Jerome, 133 West Avenue A, Suite B in Jerome, 324-2004. Minor emergencies, major care. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, Seb, I know you won't believe it, but I do have an opinion on this. I say absolutely no way, ever, at all, anyhow, any shape, any form.
I agree. And I certainly agree with you quickly, and I've got another call waiting, so make it a short answer. Why?
Because it is just plumb stupid.
That's a good enough answer. Thank you very much. Jerry, I always appreciate you, man. Thank you. Caller number 2, go ahead, please.
Yes, what is so astounding to me is the fact that they will not let a product like hemp, which is an amazingly versatile crop that would help so many people, and not just the farmers, but the things they do with it, and yet they want to legalize marijuana. And we used to call that marijuana when I was a child.
Yeah. So I'm assuming that by the tone of your voice and your verbiage, you're absolutely opposed to the legalization.
Absolutely.
All right.
It's just a gateway drug as far as I'm concerned.
I agree with that statement. Thank you very much. Good to hear from you.
Thank you.
Thank you. What about the rest of you folks? Give me a call real quick, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I may jade somebody's opinion on this, but just think about this for a minute. Please, think about this. With the legalization of marijuana, and people that work for you are sitting there going, "Hey, Ralph, how you doing, buddy?" And those same people may be tightening the bolts and the screws on major jet airliners at Boeing Aircraft. What do you think about that? And they're absent from work 78% more, and the quality of their work has gone down drastically. What about the safety and security of the products that they make? Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I just personally can't. I've talked to many, many people in Colorado, and I've talked to possibly even more in the state of Washington that are just absolutely shaking their heads over the idiocy of the legalization of marijuana. And like the lady that just called a moment ago saying it's a gateway drug. Well, I do not see any pluses for society to have a bunch of stoners laying around in the city park going, "Hey, look at that, the sky just turned green." Give me a call, please. Tell me what your thoughts are. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. While I'm waiting for your call that I know is coming in, I also want to remind you about a new advertiser on our program, been here the week, and we want to say thank you. Thank you very much to Parkview Rehabilitation and Care Center at 2303 Park Avenue in Burley. Number to remember, 677-3073. You know, it's a nursing home. Parkview Care and Rehabilitation is a nursing home providing medical service for seniors with serious illnesses or disabilities 24 hours a day. Absolutely. And they never forget that you are a valued guest and the reason that they're in business. They take care of you. Very comfortable, very safe, and therapeutic. Parkview Rehabilitation and Care Center, 2303 Park Avenue in Burley. The number, 677-3073. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know, I'm going to go to the younger generation, younger than me. And she's kind of in the twixt and tween. Jack, leave that alone. It's not yours. It's a friend of mine's. Anyway, Gina, get on the air with me just a minute. What are your thoughts? You're in the generation kind of like with bookends on either side. Us old fogies and the millennials. What are your thoughts?
On the whole legalization of marijuana?
Yeah.
I think they should go for it.
You do?
I do, honestly, and here's why. The government could make so much money in sales tax on it, we could get out of debt. There is a phenomenal amount of medical uses that it could be used for. It helps, you know, it could help my mom out. It could help out a lot of other people who are terminally ill with cancer. The hemp rope itself and the fibers are the strongest fibers known to man. The only reason that we make it illegal is, well, I'm not going to get into that diatribe, but Do I think that they should legalize it? Heck yes.
No, I totally disagree because of what I think it's going to do to our youth. I think of what it's going to... I'll just kind of bracket these different things as to why I totally disagree with you.
Okay.
I'm looking at our youth. Okay, athletics. If you go ahead and legalize it in one state and not another, and that football team or basketball team goes over to that state, they try it, they're in trouble, they lose their position on the team. I think our workforce is suffering.
Just like alcohol.
Now, wait a minute. There are rules against that also for team sports. And I'm looking at this thing on Colorado and Washington, and I'm looking at the numbers. 78% more absenteeism from jobs. Late for work, that's escalated. Poor quality of work, gone up 39%. More injuries. Pardon me?
Those people get fired. Personal accountability and responsibility.
But still, they're creating a problem with more injuries on the job that drive up healthcare costs. Once the costs are up, they very seldom ever come down. I think I use Boeing as an example over in Washington. Would you really like a bunch of stoners putting together a jet airliner?
As long as they're not stoned at work, what's the difference?
There's the difference. As long as. With the legalization, you really aren't going to be able to tell. Can you honestly tell me?
Yes, you can tell.
All the time, anytime, 24/7, I disagree.
You can tell.
I disagree.
You can.
Well, I respect your opinion, or I wouldn't have asked you. But I do absolutely, totally disagree.
We can agree to disagree because I honestly do think that they should legalize it. But for the number one fact of it would reduce the amount of people that are being incarcerated for this crime, and I think that people can learn how to be responsible with it. And just think of all of the tax dollars that the government could make off of it, which in turn would get us out of debt.
I look at that as kind of tainted money in my old age. I look at that,
tainted money.
Not all the way. No, and don't say everything's tainted money. I got to really stand up and say that's not true, because I try to garner a lot of money for the seniors, the Meals on Wheels programs, and that's not tainted money for the projects that I'm involved in. She's gone. Okay.
No, I'm still here.
Okay.
I have no comment to that. But why don't we just put it this way? We can agree to disagree.
No, but I wouldn't have asked you if I didn't want your opinion, and if it's a different opinion, it's good to have both sides represented. But I'm not going to change my philosophy on it. I know you're not going to change your philosophy, but I just think, honestly, that our society has got so lax on so many issues that there are no moral standards anymore, no rights or wrongs. And I think that's why we're seeing the problems we have today.
Possibly.
Okay. All right. Calls are welcome. 436-2244-1866-927-4587. Gee whiz, Jack Euler got in the studio and he starts taking apart everything I've got on my desk. And next thing you know, you're going to dismantle a microphone or something. Holy smokes. And we're going to have him on the air next hour, along with Director of the Fish and Game for the state of Idaho, and that's Virgil Moore from Boise. Should be a very interesting conversation. We're going to be discussing the wolves. A couple of things I want to mention real quick, and they're very important. Now, Max Twist, old Mad Max over there yesterday at Magic Valley Tire, was on the air, and he was reminding everybody about the Chili Championships. That's going to be on Saturday, February 14th, right there at Magic Valley Tire in Paul. Holy smokes, no gas shortage that day in Paul. And they're going to start with the judging at 10:30 in the morning, and he kind of issued a challenge yesterday. He said that there's never been a chili too hot for him that he had to back up and say, whoa. Well, there's the challenge. Let's see if you can't make a chili so hot, old Mad Max's ears will just burn right off. Anyway, don't forget that. And then at 11, they're going to start serving all the food to the general public. Going to be great. A lot of fun. Prizes to the top 3 winning chilies. So don't miss that on February 14th, Valentine's Day, over at Magic Valley Tire. And if you want to get entered for that chili contest, call Amber at 438-8444, okay? Then, later in the month, on February 28th, I want to remind everybody, the Minnecasia Lincoln Day Luncheon and Banquet's going to be held right there at Maury's Steakhouse in Burley. The meet and greet starts at 12 noon and lunch at 1, and I'm really looking forward to this, more so this year than ever before, to meet with our politicians, look them in the eye and say, hey, This is what we need. This is what we want. Everybody should plan to be there. I'll be back in about 6 minutes with more Zeb at the Ranch. Don't go away. I want to say, first of all, in our studio, and I'm going to have him pick his microphone up there without much noise. Normally, you give Jack something to play with or hold, he's going to make a whole bunch of racket like he's a drummer in a band or something. Good morning, Jack Euler. How are you?
Good morning.
Good to have you here. And I'm very blessed to have this next gentleman also on the phone from Boise, Idaho, and that is the director of the Idaho Fish and Game, Mr. Virgil Moore. Good morning, Virgil. How are you?
I'm fine, Zeb, and it's nice to be on the program with you. Good morning, Jack.
Good morning, Virgil. It's good to be on with you.
All right, I hope everybody can hear everybody appropriately, because we're going to try to get through quite a few things regarding the wolf situation here in the state of Idaho. Let me say up front, Virgil, and I hope you're not offended if I call you by your first name, but I'm not very formal, nor do I want to be. Virgil, I commend you and compliment you. Finally, somebody is standing up, sticking their chin out, and telling the green groups exactly what's going on with the wolf situation. Your guest editorial opinion in the Times News was long overdue. Tell us, why did you write that story called "Green Groups Should Stop Crying Wolf"?
Zeb, we are generally pretty patient with criticism relative to the department's management actions. But when our data gets misrepresented, when our information gets twisted and turned, and suggestions that the way we're managing using our information are incorrect, it's time for us to stand up and push back. And that's what this was intended to do. I want to say for your audience, I also have Mike Heckler, my chief of communications, and Brad Compton, my assistant chief of wildlife, with me. And both of them were a key part of helping me put this editorial together. It was a team effort in the department, and we all feel pretty strongly about the need to manage all wildlife.
As appropriately it should be. I mean, it takes a team effort. But right now, this gentleman that's sitting here in the studio with me, Jack Euler, I really give Jack a lot of credit since 1995, standing up and basically telling the real truth about the wolf reintroduction program. What about the green groups today? We're hearing so much from these advocacy groups, Virgil. Oh, the poor wolf, it's teetering on the edge of extinction. We've got to do something. We've got to change the rules. Tell us about your feelings on that. We still have very capably the numbers that are going to meet the standards of the wolf packs and the number of wolves in the state. Why are they saying that with this current wolf count, they're teetering on the edge of being depleted?
I don't know. Certainly, I can't tell you what's in their minds, Zeb, relative to why they decide they need to do this, but the desire to take the state's sovereign management over our wildlife away from us, and to get the federal government involved in managing this species again, I believe is motivating them to misuse the information that's out there. You are correct. There is no threat to this species of getting even close to what the criteria would be for reinitiation of any Endangered Species Act review. And I'll quote myself from the article. It's hogwash. And I think that says it as well as anything, Zeb. My grandfather was a hog farmer. And for those of us who have been around hogs, you know that the water that they wallow in and wash in has a much higher odor level than even what comes from BS.
I think that was aptly put, and on this program, probably very fitting. Thank you very much. The agreement, I want to talk about that. The 10 breeding pairs and 100 wolves. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to realize that since 1995, the numbers have escalated, and there may be, and there's been numbers that have been given as estimation of maybe 850 wolves, maybe 1,000 wolves, maybe 1,300 wolves. Who really knows? Is there a better way, or should there be a better way of getting a more exact count on the wolves to satisfy some of the naysayers?
Certainly, Zeb, we know what we know, but we don't know what we can't count out there. We started with an agreed-on minimum number of about 850 plus wolves in the state when we delisted these things back in 2009. We're down to somewhere just over 600 right now. In 2013, it was 659, and it's probably lower than that this year, but we don't have those numbers finalized. And when we do, we'll get those out here in the next month or so. But the point being is the numbers that we can count and the way that we count these critters shows a decline, and we also have been able to document a reduction in depredation on livestock and some improvement in some elk herds in areas that are outside of our back country where we have a lot of access and a lot of hunter and trapping activity. We've been able to bring wolf numbers down and see some positive results of managing those numbers more appropriately. So are those numbers the actual numbers? We're working on a number of techniques that hopefully will help us get more accurate indications of what we have for wolves out there. But they take a lot of time and effort to work through. Some of them are DNA analysis. Some of them are scat analysis, cohort analysis from juveniles that are in the harvest versus adults. And we're still trying to put that information together. But during this 5-year period, since delisting in 2009 or 2011 for the second time, we have to comply with the plan that we agreed to document these animals in exactly the way that the Fish and Wildlife Service and the state of Idaho agreed. So all of these new techniques will be what we'll use once we get out from underneath this 5-year review, which is May of 2016.
You know, Virgil, I'm sitting here with Jack Euler, as you know, and Jack's been on my program many times talking about this issue. Now, I'll say this from an outsider. I would imagine that the management of the wolves is probably the hardest to manage of any of the wildlife issues that you have with the fish and game. And also, it's probably taking more time for management of the wolves and all the paperwork and everything else than possibly anything else in the state. Explain that to me. Am I right or wrong?
Well, I wouldn't say it's more than anything else in the state, but certainly I will say from this office's standpoint, managing some of the social issues associated with doing the biological work that we know how to do has taken a fairly large amount of time. I mean, there are other sensitive species out there, sage grouse, for an example, that we're trying to keep off the endangered species list, that takes a huge amount of time for the department working in conjunction with the governor's office. But I will say, though, in my career, and that spans several decades, I originally worked on salmon and steelhead, this is a much more contentious wildlife management issue than any I have ever been associated with, because the beliefs on both sides of the issue are so strong. And all you have to do is think back. I mean, we've been living with and around wolves since the end of the glacial period, and we have a mythology and a human-wolf interaction that goes back to prehistoric times, and the stories about wolves go through society. So we do carry with us a huge value on wolves on both sides, and that was evident, centuries ago, even millennia ago, in some of the writings that we see and the stories that we hear about wolf and human interaction.
Let me ask you this, Virgil, and then I'm going to have Jack ask you a question or two. Because of the wariness of the wolf and the elusiveness of the wolf, is it now that you're managing it, is it the most hard to manage and come up with management ideas?
Well, it may be the hardest to manage because of all of the process and overview that we get. Every time we do something, somebody has a different idea. Biologically, they're not a difficult species to manage from the standpoint of understanding that they are a top-level predator, and they do have an effect on their prey base. And the challenge we've got is the amount of information that people seem to demand before any action is taken.
I see.
And typically we don't go to that level with management actions with other game species. We use indicators that are less precise or less intense in their annual monitoring to make those decisions. With wolves, we've had to stay at a very high level of monitoring and accounting for every management action that we propose. Fortunately, they are delisted. They are under state control. We don't need federal permission to do these management actions, but we do have federal entities denying the use of either some of their lands or their services, threatened constantly in terms of how we go about managing wolves in this state.
Okay.
And so that takes a huge amount of time to work through.
Absolutely. Virgil, we have a caller with a question, and if you can't hear it, I'll repeat it and paraphrase it for you. Go ahead, caller, quickly, real fast.
Why does it take $6,400 to kill a wolf? I'd like for him to answer that question.
All right. Virgil, would you respond to the caller? They were asking about the cost factor that has been averaged out, and the paper and other stories have come out and said that it costs roughly about $6,400 to kill a wolf. How would you respond to the caller?
Zeb, and to the caller, certainly based on the numbers that came out yesterday in the Joint Finance Appropriation Committee when the Wolf Depredation Control Board reported their budget, that is the math that shows based on what was done. There is a ton more activity that the USDA Wildlife Services does for us relative to depredation management, both for ungulates, our deer and our elk, as well as livestock. And so we actually have them out there putting collars on animals so we can do our population monitoring. We have all of the costs associated with other wildlife service responsibilities, the necropsies, the investigation of any dead livestock to verify whether it was a wolf, whether it was a cougar or a bear or any other causative agent. We work with Wildlife Service to pay for that. So all of those costs are rolled into that figure divided by the number they actually killed. I think it's important for you to understand, too, that those numbers were partial year numbers for part year, and that we have better information for other years that we've worked with in terms of the kind of work that Wildlife Services has done. But certainly it is, I think that number illustrates how expensive it is to manage this species.
Absolutely.
And the burden it puts on the state for the large number of wolves that are out there on the landscape. And we need to understand that's something that's going to be with us. We're not going to get away from that. We can reduce wolf numbers through management, but we're still going to have the need to deal with livestock depredations and some control for our elk herds in certain areas.
Absolutely, and well stated, Virgil. Thank you. Jack Euler's on the air right now, has a question for you. Go ahead, Jack, quickly.
Virgil, my question, I'm going to make this in two parts. My question is, I would like you to give the increase per year of the wolves when they have their pups and everything like that. So it gives us kind of an idea of what we have to do to maintain a certain level. But my comment to you is I was on a phone conversation last night with Ryan Benson out of Salt Lake, and he has told me the meetings that he has been in with you on the federal level and the good things that you have done and the stands that you have taken and the respect that you have, and I would just like to congratulate you for that, and I do appreciate the things that you do. And I'll look forward to your comment. Thanks.
All right, Virgil, please, on the number of wolves and their pups.
Okay. I think, Jack, what you're trying to get at is how productive these animals are. On an annual basis, wolves typically can have a production of 30 to 40%. I mean, they're among the most prolific big game animals that we manage in terms of the offspring they can produce. And so when you do that math with 600 plus wolves out there, 107 packs of wolves, a large portion of those with breeding pairs present in those, we produce a lot of wolves on an annual basis. I mean, hundreds of pups are produced annually. And so too often folks focus on how many we kill. At the same time, we're producing a ton of these animals. And like any big game animal, you have a harvestable surplus. At the same time, we're trying to reduce that number down from the 10 years when they weren't delisted and the numbers got so high. And so we have to take probably 35 to 45 or 50% of the production on an annual basis to begin to manage numbers down in areas where we have severe problems. That's where the real challenge is. Sportsmen have been our primary management tool. Sport hunting and trapping has been taking more of these animals as part of their sport than any other factor. Wildlife Services has been helping out with that, particularly where there's livestock depredations. And for us specifically, they've been assisting us in the low zone with some directed activities to reduce wolf numbers down there so we can get our elk population back up.
Virgil, it must be extremely frustrating. This is Zeb back on the air again with you. It must be extremely frustrating to have these advocacy groups. You've made an agreement, you're living by the agreement, you're living by the numbers, etc., and then they come out and keep trying to change the rules and the regulations. That's got to be extremely frustrating for you and your department.
Zeb, I couldn't have said it better. Extremely frustrating, maybe mild in some cases. My staff around here has seen me when we get these irrational claims that have no foundation. And what bothers me more is that people begin to believe them. And so that's where we have to set the record straight. That's where we have to provide people the information to better understand this. But I will tell you that honestly, Zeb, back in D.C., on the East Coast, folks don't understand correct information very well. They have a belief system that allows them to get captured by this misinformation, and it's problematic. I have to spend, as Jack noted, a huge amount of time interacting with appointed officials back in D.C. to correct this misinformation and the direction that they're headed with decisions. It's frustrating to me to have to constantly do that when the data is just dead clear that it's not true. But you have to lobby for that information in this process and make sure that it's in full consideration as we move forward. And so what we need is to continue to have dialogue. Our Fish and Game website has the best and most current information on wolf population statistics that exist pretty much anywhere. And that is data you can take home with you. It is not anything anybody's going to find problem with. It's their misinterpretation of the data that frustrates me a lot.
Virgil, I've only got about 3 minutes before I've got a hard break at the bottom of the hour, but I want to ask you this question. We need new sportsmen. We need a new generation. We need more numbers of people that want to hunt and fish and enjoy the great outdoors. Because, quite frankly, the bottom line is, with the new sportsmen, that means more license fees and more money for the Fish and Game to manage wildlife in the state of Idaho. What are we doing, or what can we all do to help generate an enthusiasm for new sportsmen?
That's great. We can try to get more people out hunting and fishing. I think the youth-related activities that we have available to us are huge. We're seeing a big increase in the number of kids going through hunter education. We're up over 32% over the last 10 years. We've got a new program that allows for mentored hunting. any individual can go hunting once with a licensed adult hunter without going through hunter ed. There's no better way than to get either a kid or an adult with this hunter passport that's available out into the field to really get them hooked in on this. We've got some wildivore programs out there where we are mentoring folks out to get their first animal and then helping them fix that animal and eat it so that they get the full circle. We're seeing huge urban populations as well. These folks, what we call localvores, they want to know where their food came from. They're growing all their veggies. Now they're thinking about, well, let's go out and get some meat. So I'm optimistic. Actually, our numbers in Idaho are growing slowly for hunting. They're doing fairly well for fishing. We're growing license sales there. But we need more people to bring kids outside, get them outside and enjoy this traditional, lovely way of life that we have here in Idaho.
You know, Virgil, I want to say thank you very much to you this morning on behalf of my program and to your other folks that are there in the office with you. Thank you for the coordinated effort to get you on my program. And I want you to know that you can feel free to call me anytime, and we'll give you an audience on my program because we are absolutely behind you and what you're trying to do on behalf of the Idaho Fish and Game.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
All right, sir. Thank you for the call. We appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, Virgil Moore with the directorship of the Idaho Fish and Game, and hopefully we'll have him back on the air again in the not-too-distant future. And, Jack, it goes without saying, and I've only got a minute left here before a hard break, and we're going to talk about another subject this next half hour, but it goes without saying, I really thank you for your involvement because you were the one that lined up Virgil to come on our program this morning, and I thank you very much.
Well, I appreciate Virgil, I appreciate you, and I appreciate this opportunity.
We're going to talk next half hour about the sage grouse and kind of a coordinated effort or mindset between the wolves and the sage grouse and really what some of these advocacy groups are trying to do. But right now we're going to send it back over to our main studios. I'll be back with more this next half hour with Jack Euler. Don't go away.
And now back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KBAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb Bell.
Oh, welcome back. Thank you very much for tuning in. Zeb at the Ranch on this Wednesday. Hey, it's Valentine's Day coming up in just a few days on the 14th. And go to the bookstore at 515 5th Street in Rupert. Oh, did you hear that Jack Euler's running over there right after the program because they've got those caramel-filled chocolate hearts. Oh, he's got a craving for those chocolate hearts. Yes, sirree, the large ones and the small ones, and they've got all the different fudge. Why, the trunk of his car won't be able to scrape the ground. Anyway, he's going to get all the fudge flavors. They've got pralines and cream and sea salt and chocolate caramel and peppermint chocolate and all that. It's delicious at the bookstore. Hold your microphone still. 515 5th Street in Rupert. You stop over and see them today. Also, the Dreams Day Spa and Salon. Oh, listen, husbands, this is a great place to send your wife. Dreams Day Spa and Salon, full-service salon and spa, gift certificates, oh my goodness, for massages, facials, permanents, makeup, eyelash extensions, everything right there at the Dreams Day Spa and Salon. Why, Jack, just think what they could do for you. Anyway, 123 East 23rd in Burley, the Dreams Day Spa and Salon, wishing you and yours a happy Valentine's Day. Back on the air with a very, very dear friend of mine, and we kid a lot, joke a lot, but this man is the most knowledgeable of any person, I think, in the state of Idaho, and I'll even go that much further and say the Northwest, when it comes to wildlife management issues with the wolf and also with the sage grouse. And that's why I wanted him on the program this morning to be with us when we talk to Virgil Moore, director of the Idaho Fish and Game. Give me a kind of a synopsis as to what you thought, what Virgil said to the public this morning about management of wolves.
Well, I thought that Virgil was straightforward with what he had to say about management. The thing that he didn't come right out and say is, you know, the call we had, what was it, $4,600 to kill a wolf. Well, that takes in the budget and what is spent, but Virgil did put some light on other things that go into that number. But, aircraft today is involved in those control issues, and that costs a lot per hour.
Is it needless to say, really, that if we didn't have this problem, i.e. the wolves being thrust upon us, look at the money that could be spent in other areas for the upgrading of our wildlife. Am I right or wrong?
That's completely true, and a very good example of that is north of Gardner, Montana, in that valley, what the wolves have done to that valley and their economies. And we could have dollars to put elsewhere. And we get saddled with these things under the Endangered Species Act, and that the same way with sage grouse. It's Endangered Species Act, and the advocacy groups that he was talking about, they could care less about the species. They just want their ideology and things to happen.
Let's talk a little bit about the wolves from this day forward. We ran out of time in that first segment, but I wanted to ask Virgil, and I'm going to have him back on the program, if he could look into a crystal ball 5 years, 10 years down the road as to what these advocacy groups want, what they're doing, how they won't honor the rules, they won't honor the regulations as they were signed for, they won't honor the agreements, and they keep crying the blues to the court system and their lawyers to keep coming back and trying to rewrite the rules. Really, when you look ahead 5 or 10 years, how concerned are you?
Well, this book, The Real Wolf, by Ted Lyon, has a chapter in here that deals with this. Now, when the wolves were brought here, they were supposedly a pure strain of the wolf. And today, out there is no pure strain of the wolf. And there's a chapter in this book that is written by a doctor in his field, that talks about this. And we were told that the wild wolves would not breed with domestic dogs, they would not breed with coyotes, they would not breed with this, they wouldn't breed with that. That's also hogwash, and it talks about that in here. They call the ones that breed with coyotes coy wolf, COY-WOLF.
Jack, this problem, you've been fighting it since 1995, and here we are. We seem to have kind of a ball rolling down the street. Here you are one day, and the next day you're down here, and the next day the ball rolls again, and everything seems to be changing. But overall, when you look at the other advocacy groups and what they're trying to promote, you mentioned the sage grouse earlier. We have so many items that are coming up against private property rights, so many items that are coming up that will actually take people off the land. I'm not real positive about what the future bodes as far as us, our taxpayers, being able to use public land.
And that's what it's all about. And that's why the things that are going on in the state, there's 7 states in the West that are trying to get control of their federal lands so that they can manage federal lands within the state, within the borders of their state. Idaho is one of those states. And you read what was in the paper the other day about what, if we took over federal lands, what it would cost and this and that. And I was in a meeting with the University of Idaho, the guy that was over forestry at the University of Idaho, and he says forests do need to be managed. And he talked about state forests on state land is being managed much better than the federal government forest land. And this is the way it is with BLM. This is the way it is with anything that the federal government is involved in.
What did you think when you picked up the newspaper this morning and read that headline, Board wants another $400,000 to kill wolves? The blatant use of the word kill wolves and kind of the feeling like the Times News is siding with some of the advocacy groups. Doesn't that kind of rile you a little bit?
They're not kind of siding with them. They're in bed with them. I mean, I'll tell it like it is.
Absolutely.
I've been in too many meetings.
Absolutely.
And I just, I can't believe what comes out of some people's mouths and what is put in the paper.
You've had a chance through your career fighting this, and believe me, nobody's made you rich and wealthy fighting this since 1995. But you've seen the advocacy groups. You've talked to these people. You've met with them. You've tried to reason with them. As we look at one generation possibly getting older and the next generation coming up, are they incorporating a lot of young people into their thought process?
The advocacy group?
Yes.
Yes, they are. And all these issues is a money-making. They use the wolf as a way to make money for their group.
Right.
Same with the sage-grouse. We have to have your money to help us out at this time.
Yeah.
And there's a study that was done on this wolf issue, and one of these groups that got money from the government, they got $16 million from the government, and as a result of that $16 million, the group was able to generate $8 million for themselves. Now, if you look at a private business, how long would he be in business, doing business that way?
Absolutely. We have a caller with a question. Go ahead, caller, please.
Yeah, Jack, I was talking recently to somebody that works at the BLM, and they were doing test plots where they had cattle grazing, and the intent was to, about the environment, whether or not, I realize it's not the Forest Service, but it's still how the environment reacted, and whether or not it was a good or a bad thing for the sage grouse. And according to them, they said that these test plots were proving that grazing was good for the environment and the sage grouse. And but will these tests come out and will the public know, or how will that work? And I'll hang up.
Thank you, Randy. Appreciate it. Go ahead, Jack. I think you already have a smile on your face with the answer. Go ahead.
I don't know, Randy, whether it will come out or not, but the BLM hasn't come out and said anything yet, and it's just like the director of the Fish and Game coming out and making a statement finally on these issues on the wolf. This fall, when I was hunting deer out in Unit 47, which is on the Nevada-Idaho border, I'm within a quarter of a mile of the Nevada border, and I ran into one of those test sites, and there was a BLM truck there, and there was a BLM employee out walking around this test plot, and I went out and talked to him to see what he was doing. He was measuring sagebrush. It's an area where they cut down some sagebrush. I've been trying to get him to manage sagebrush because it helps the grass, it helps everything. And I says, what are you doing out here by the Nevada-Idaho border? Way out there. And it was very interesting.
You know, Jack, you've been, we lost a good friend. We've talked about this before in Elko, Nevada. And he was really leading the charge against the advocacy groups. And have they found anybody that can replace him and his abilities?
No. His briefcase is still sitting in the chair in his office, and I don't know who's going to pick up the briefcase and take it from here.
Let me ask you that right there, because you had mentioned that his son, we're talking about Grant Gerber out of Elko, Nevada, that passed away, a very dear friend of mine and yours, but it's going to take other people to pick up the briefcases, plural, in the future, whether it's your briefcase, whether it's my briefcase, having this radio program, whether it's Grant Gerber's briefcase. Somebody's got to pick up the briefcases, and they've got to fight these groups, or the advocacy groups have already won.
That's right. And Grant Gerber is an individual that started fighting these type of issues with the spotted owl, and he went to the salmon, he went to water issues, he went to a lot of things, the garbage shovel brigade, and the man is up on a pole as far as I'm concerned. But there's nobody yet that I have found that can even match what he did.
Why are people, and give me a short answer on this because I got to get a weather forecast in, but why are people sitting back today, I think more so than ever before, and just saying, let somebody else do it? Our livelihoods, our recreation, our land, our private property rights, everything is being pushed to the edge of the cliff. Why aren't more people getting involved?
That's totally true, and why aren't they getting involved? I don't know, because maybe it's my age and my experiences that make me think, that nobody cares. But I told some people in a meeting not long ago, I'm not doing it for myself.
You're doing it.
I'm doing it for my kids and my grandkids.
Absolutely.
And that's what it's all about for me. And I got invited last night to Washington, D.C., to work on the wolf issue and the sage-grouse issue. And in March, I guess, when I get all the information, I'll be going to D.C. to work on these issues.
Well, they'll have the best man for the job. We'll have more in just a moment and take some more of your phone calls, but right now it's time for the weather quickly, and the weather is brought to you by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, 324-7657. Don't forget Don Scarrow and the crew, locally owned, custom meat processor serving all of southern Idaho with the best of beef, pork, lamb, and processing of wild game. They guarantee everything they sell, and they sell taste one bite at a time. Here now is Michael Rogers' weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers for the Zip at the Ranch. It gives me great pleasure to announce to you that you're going to be walking into a weather pattern known as a Pineapple Express. What in the world is all of that? You've got a surge of moisture coming directly right off to the Pacific, and with the warmer temperatures in the lower elevation, your weather event will be more of rain than it will be of snow. Now, Pineapple Express is rarely known in these parts, but Alaska gets it about 2 or 3 times a year in the dead of winter. You're getting Alaska's weather right now because normally they get it this time of year. So that moisture surge again, so you can look for rain for today, and it's going to just taper off and be cloudy for tonight and also for tomorrow. And then about Friday, going into Friday night, Saturday, you're going to get the brunt of it. But it's going to be a rain event, and the temperatures are going to be in the 40s. Daytime highs today will be in the low 50s, but otherwise, say hello to something you have never seen before. It is known as a Pineapple Express.
Thank you, Michael.
Show the weather. Show the weather you got.
All right, buddy. Appreciate it. Scarrows Meats. Don Scarrow and the rest of the crew at 331 North Road, Jerome, with Scarrows Meats, bringing you Michael Rogers' weather. Call them today, 324-7657. Jack, we've got probably about 6 minutes left here this morning. What are you hearing? I mean, you of anybody, you hear and you get news reports and you get warnings as to what might be coming down the pike. What about the sage-grouse issue? What about anything more with the advocacy groups? What have we got to look forward to, and what do we need to stand up and fight that might be a new attack from these people?
Well, let me start out by saying that I am on this Governor Sage-Grouse Task Force, and we are having a meeting in Boise with the State Land Board and the director of the State Land Board, and that will be held that will be held a week from Friday at 10 o'clock, and it will be very interesting. And what it is going to show is what the state of Idaho is going to do to manage for sage grouse on state lands and trust lands.
Okay, we have a caller with a question. Go ahead, caller, please.
Hey, Jack?
Yes.
What do you think about this crap going up in them South Hills and that, taking out the cedars, which is, they can't tell me that them sage hens haven't been under there because I've hunted it for years. I know where they go. I know how they use them branches for rooting and all that stuff. What is the idea of tearing out all them cedar trees that's protecting all this stuff?
Go ahead and answer that on the air. Al, thank you very much for your call. Go ahead.
Have a good one.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Part of it is a water issue. Now, a mature juniper tree will drink 24 gallons of water a day, and it will bring the water table of the land up if you take out those trees. Now, is it necessary to do it to the extent that they're doing it? I can't answer that. I don't know. But there was where this got started was up in eastern Oregon on a ranch, and he took all his cedar trees out on his ranch, and he had springs popping up on his property and that's where this got started. I mean, the water came out of the ground.
You know, that's really a very interesting number, 24 gallons a day, and take that times, if those figures are even fathomable, to take that times literally thousands and thousands and thousands of trees, and that is a lot of water.
And under a juniper tree, no grass, no sagebrush.
Yeah.
Under a mature juniper tree, you find gravel or dirt.
Okay.
And that's it.
What do you think, Jack? There are a lot of groups out there, as we've called them, advocacy groups. They don't want an agreement. They don't want the sage grouse to flourish with cattle. They want cattle gone. There's a lot of groups that want to see wolves become so prevalent. They don't care about the elk and the deer. What about the fighting of these groups? I mean, it takes a lot of money. Where are we going to get the money?
Well, that's been a heartburn of mine for a long time. I would like to see the state of Idaho file suit back against the people that continually file suit against us. Is it ever going to happen? I doubt it, but why doesn't the state of Idaho file a lawsuit against the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and these other government agencies? Because the money and it's all tax money.
That's right.
The money that these advocacy groups are getting is our tax dollars, and they're doing it through the court system. They have found a way to use our court system, and they believe in attorneys and courts, and that's it, because they make money at it.
And so, therefore, your request is very simple. Why then can't we make a countersuit against them? When they lose, they pay us.
That's right. And I don't know, Ted Lyon, who wrote this book on the real wolf, he and I have talked about that one.
Okay. Founders Day celebration. And Jack, if you ever had the occasion years ago to meet Mr. Les Schwab before he passed away, he was absolutely one of the nicest, most kind individuals that I've ever met. Well, the Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers are celebrating a Founders celebration right now, and you can save a lot of money. Listen to this, $20 off wheel alignment when you buy 4 new tires. tires. And they've got tires like the all-season traction tires, a very affordable pricing, starting at just $57.77. Oh my goodness, along with the very, very best in brake service, the best in front-end alignment, shocks and struts. And of course, don't forget, their brake service, their batteries, everything top of the line. They really know brake business, and you stop in and check it out today. Best brake value promise in the industry. All 7 locations serving you: Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, and of course John on Poline in Twin Falls, and my buddy old Randy on Overland and Burley. The best, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers.
I'd like to say something about that. I have met him also and had a discussion with him, and he built that Les Schwab tires on service, and that was his idea of how to build a good business.
Absolutely. He keeps the best of employees and the best of service.
That's right.
And I was very fortunate to meet the man way back years ago when I used to announce the Prineville, Oregon Rodeo, which was their headquarters.
Right.
Jack, we got to wrap it up for today. I absolutely am indebted to you for coming out and going on the program. But if anything comes up when we see stories like this that were in the paper this morning, or of course the editorials where Virgil Moore stood toe-to-toe against the advocacy groups, we need to get this highlighted in front of the general public, and you do a great job. Thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate your time, and I appreciate you giving Virgil some time today, and the things that I've seen coming out of the Fish and Game Department this last few months has been very good.
All right, Jack Euler, dear friend of this program, and tomorrow on the show, tomorrow's Thursday, and boy, is it going to be a busy day. One of the segments that I'm really looking forward to, we're expecting to have Joy Brighton on the air with us on the phone at 10:30 tomorrow morning, talking about Sharia-ism right here in the United States. A busy, busy Thursday tomorrow morning. Zeb at the Ranch, K-Bar 1230, streaming live on the net, and that's, of course, on ZebBell.com. The way things were, the way things ought to be. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 8:06.